So at this point, I've played Fallout 76 for like 40 hours. 35 of those I have recorded, so rip my hard drive. A big chunk of this was during the beta build, but also I was in the Xbox stress test and actually at the Greenbrier event. So I've gotten to see somewhat of the evolution of this game through some of the different builds and the different patches. In this video, I more or less just want to talk about what I thought about this game, what it did right, what it did wrong, and where it can improve on in the future. If you're watching this video looking for an unbiased review of Fallout 76, don't. I'm definitely biased towards this game. Bethesda invited me to an event, and just in general, my financial success is directly correlated to this game. I still hope to be pretty objective here and actually back up my points with facts, but either way, I think Fallout 76 is an amazing game in more ways than one. The fact that Bethesda actually managed to take what is a fundamentally single-player RPG and translate that into a multiplayer atmosphere is just something that shouldn't be downplayed. What they've done with this game is absolutely incredible, and it without a doubt has a plethora of faults, but multiplayer in Fallout is something I truly hope they continue with. In Fallout 5, I would much rather an optional mode in that regard, but being able to explore and fight new and unique creatures with your friends is an unparalleled experience for me. But making this transition has without a doubt come with a cost. The story of Fallout 76 is fundamentally different than that of previous Fallout games. In this game, you're largely hearing or reading about what happened to the people of this area. It's communicated to you through holotapes or terminal entries. I'm definitely not a fan of this. I simply think the dialogue options and interaction with human NPCs of Fallout 4 is superior to the methods they use with Fallout 76. With Fallout 4, it felt like you were an actual player in that story. You were making decisions that affected its outcome. In Fallout 76, it just feels like you're reading a story that has happened once before, and it's definitely hard to care about some of these characters because most of them are already dead. You're just uncovering why they actually died. Now, with that in mind, I do understand why this game went the route of actually just hearing about the story, remove things like dialogue options. I don't really think removing human NPCs was necessary, but I think the dialogue aspect of this makes sense to me. They took the storytelling component and tried to make it kind of multiplayer. So now you just kind of take it in passively as you're standing around different NPCs. You don't actually kind of engage in dialogue. I think this method is inferior, but it's not bad. Fallout 76 still has a rock-solid story, and especially with those factions you knew about and care about, such as the Enclave or the Brotherhood of Steel, I found myself very invested in knowing what happened to them. The Enclave quest in particular has been some of the most fun I've had in this game, and I think people writing off the story as lackluster or bad are simply wrong. I think it's a good story, I just don't like the means by which they're telling it. And with that being said, I've played 40 hours of this game and I haven't even scratched the surface of this story. There is so much more content here that it's actually kind of insane. With that being said, I feel like the content in Fallout 76 has almost a dichotomy to it in several different ways. One of the big things we found out about this game at E3 was the map is 4 times the size of Fallout 4's. And when you actually jump into this world, it is immediately obvious. I would say that's one of the best features of this game. There are so many different things to explore and find, different stories to uncover. Playing this on Xbox during my first 10 hours, that was some of the most fun I've had in a video game ever. I actually teamed up with somebody watching, a guy named NoProfileName, and a big shout out to him here. He was patient with me, and I think overall, him playing with me during those initial hours really enhanced my experience with this game. Just going from area to area, taking down some of those enemies, exploring some of those new structures. You can see how much time and effort Bethesda actually made into making some of these different regions feel distinctively different. When you go to the Cranberry Bog, you don't confuse it with the forest. Exploration is without a doubt one of the things this game does best, which makes it so much worse to say that it also gets it particularly wrong in some places. Even though the map of Fallout 76 is 4 times the size, it feels like they didn't actually fill it up. There have been numerous times where I'm playing through this game, I'll find a location that looks awesome from the outside, clear all the enemies out and start exploring it, only to find next to nothing as far as story components go. Maybe you'll get a note that gives you a brief backstory, but it's super basic and super shallow. The example I've been using is the crashed space station. It's one of the spots that I saw in the trailers and it just looks awesome. I want to know why it crashed, who was on board, were there any survivors? Upon going there, all you actually find is a note that will lead to you opening a door, which leads to you getting to spacesuits. Now don't get me wrong, those spacesuits are freaking awesome and I definitely like that thing, but it just felt like it should have had so much more. It looks like such a cool and interesting location. This is just one example, but that disappointment of going to someplace cool only to walk away with next to nothing is something I felt a lot throughout this game. And this isn't to say that every location is barren with nothing in it. There are a plethora of locations that have a ton of backstory and lore, will give you a bunch of different quests to do. It just feels like a lot of times it's either hit or miss. You go to this location that Bethesda obviously put a lot of time into, then you go to the next one and you find one note code that I could have wrote in Word in all of 15 minutes. I don't know what happened. Maybe Bethesda started to run out of time. Maybe they just made a map far too big for them to actually populate with lore and backstory. And I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying this game has a lack of content. I'm saying that certain locations just felt like they had a lack of content. Overall, there's still a ton to do. It's just that it doesn't feel like it's evenly distributed across the map. Some of you might be like, well, what's the issue with that? The issue was, after exploring for a couple hours, it feels really bad to time and time again find just kind of nothing rewarding. It's very likely that a lot of these things might be fleshed out with future content or DLC in the future, but we don't know that for sure, and even still, is that really a solution to this problem or just a fix after the fact? Another thing that really marks this game is the duality of playstyles. As I mentioned before, playing with NoProfileName, actually exploring and finding out about some of the story here was amazing. Unfortunately, playing with others, it feels very difficult, or at least it has for me, to actually consume the story of this game. The story is mostly told again through holotapes and terminal entries. So trying to listen to a holotape while you also have 3 other people talking in the background kind of takes you out of it. It doesn't really get me immersed in whatever story is being told. And maybe some of you do have people that collectively will all listen to the holotape at the same time and shut up. But I have to imagine, based on reading other people's reports, that's not common. So then you alternatively can go the solo route, and this is definitely a game that can be played by yourself. I've done it for quite a few of my hours, but then you run into something and it's like, wow, I really wish I had somebody else playing with me here. It would just make my life so much simpler to clear out this area, or just all in all make it so I'm having a little bit more fun in this instance. And that was a problem I kind of encountered numerous times, where I was either playing in a group and I wish I was playing solo for a particular part of that, or I was playing solo and I wish I had a group of friends while I was doing a certain aspect of that quest. So this very realistically could just be a byproduct of the people I'm playing with, but it is without a doubt something that I encountered numerous times. Some of these holotapes are long, at 6 or 7 minutes in length. So you're kind of awkwardly standing there like, all right, everyone, please shut up for the next 7 minutes so I could really dive into this holotape and find out what happened to the Brotherhood of Steel. So in reality, what happened here with my experience in Fallout 76, when I wanted to do quests and the story, I would play alone. When I wanted to explore, maybe do some events or even some PvPing, I would try and find a group of friends to play with. And actually moving on to the player-to-player interaction part, I feel like this is another thing that it almost doesn't commit heavily enough. In all of this game, I don't think I once really interacted with a stranger. I think this has ups and downs to it. On one side, it's really nice to actually just be able to play the game with whoever you want to play with. I've got entire 4-hour play sessions without ever seeing another player unless I invited them to my party. And that's pretty freaking awesome. It's pretty insane to be on a server with 24 other people and to never see anyone. That I think is indicative of how large and expansive this map is. But at the same time, sometimes when I wanted to interact with other players, I felt like the opportunities really weren't there. A lot of people are saying how the Greenbrier would be a central trading hub, but I never found anyone trying to trade there. There's this radio station called Hunter vs. Hunted that allows you to PvP with others. I tried to turn it on roughly once every play session. I never saw even one other person in that. It needs 4 people at minimum to start, and it was always just 1 out of 4, even while leaving it on for an hour or 2. I'm not really sure who's at fault for this aspect. I think the social components of the game are there. PvPing, when I did it, was fun. I genuinely enjoyed the combat. I had this one instance where I saw a hunted player on the map and, well, I hunted him. I snuck up on him and tried to take him down. And it was a blast. Bethesda at the E3 event described how player-to-player interactions were meant to have drama, the fear of the unknown. In that instance, I had it, but in most instances, I don't. Even though PvP was so much fun, most of the times I actually did it, I was just doing it with other people in my own group. I don't really know how you fix this, and I hate making a criticism and not knowing the solution, but in my 40 hours of this game, the social component simply wasn't there. Maybe I just spent too much time on the outer regions of the map or not reaching out to other players nearly enough, but for me, I never saw an opportunity to trade with some random dude or try and sell some of my excess meat like Bethesda had described they were doing in their own offices internally. Although I think in my eyes, if you actually already have a few friends that own this game and you're kind of on the fence as to whether or not to get it, buy it. There's so much fun to be had while playing with 3 others or even 7 others and just getting 2 separate squads running together. There was instances where we were exploring with groups of 7 people and it was amazing. It felt like we had our own little gang going from location to location. And that didn't get old. It's not like I'm tired of doing that already. There are going to be another probably 40 hours, if not more, spent on doing those exact same things because it is a blast. And all around, I feel like that's kind of how I feel about Fallout 76. It's a game I'm going to be playing a lot of. I'm going to be making a lot of videos on it, and I'm genuinely excited to do so. I'm excited to see what Bethesda brings us with future content. I have no doubt 6 months down the road, this will be a significantly better game than it is right now. But right now, at least, I feel like it's a game that, although doing a ton right, also has a ton of issues with with it. But I think this makes it almost more frustrating. There are some things so well done in this game that those stupid or silly things that are done poorly just make it feel so much worse. Like, why is it that this epic space station has so little content? Bethesda has gotten lore and backstory of individual locations right so many times in other games, and why did they fall short this time? I'm just using this as an example again. There are several locations throughout the world that you'll probably encounter this very same thing. Spend 20 minutes trying to get to the top of this tower only to find one note. And this, of course, is all not even talking about some of the outside factors that impact this game. Things like the late beta, the bugginess we're probably going to see on release, and even just the lack of features on PC. Bethesda isn't some new indie studio. They've been making games for years at this point, and how are these issues still here? How did nobody think, oh, maybe we should include a push to talk? I think a lot of these features will make it into the game, but not on release. I feel like a lot of the stuff we want to see will be out maybe 2 months after the fact. And I personally find that unacceptable. It's a $60 game from a large game company with years of experience. These are mistakes that shouldn't be happening, and I think holding Bethesda accountable for them is necessary. So all in all, I think Fallout 76 is a game worth $60, but probably just $60. 2 to 4 months down the line, once Bethesda gets in some of those core features or even adds in maybe some new features, I could see this being an even better purchase. I really want this game to be good, and hopefully Bethesda will improve on the product they have here because it really does have so much potential. Either way, those are my thoughts and opinions on Fallout 76. Obviously a little bit of a longer video. I'm sure many of you disagree with many things I said, but hopefully I tried to provide some evidence or give some context as to why I feel that way. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, but with that, I thank you all for watching again, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.